So today I'll be talking about these three run cycles. I made these three run cycles to learn how gorilla moves, how gorilla runs, and in future I'll be making a gorilla fights animation in which gorilla will be fighting with a tiger. So today I want to talk about one of these cycles, which is the fastest cycle. So these to make these three run cycles I have to spend 3 hours. So I spent 9 hours to make all these three run cycles. I also spend a lot of time researching how gorilla moves, how gorilla runs. I will also talk about the process I used to make this run cycle. Just to be clear, this tutorial is not just for Maya users. Anybody from any another platform can hear me and can learn what I researched about gorilla, because I won't be talking anything about Maya in this tutorial. I will be only talking about what I see and what I observed in gorilla. The first thing is I did a lot of study to learn how gorilla moves. I watched a lot of gorilla videos on YouTube. I was trying to see what exactly gorilla is doing. Why is gorilla trying to run in this way? Because the gorilla is also like humans. Why is he's not running like humans? Why is trying to run in this way? So I find out that I came to know that this is a more efficient way to run faster instead of running like humans, and this is a even better and faster way to run. Why is this pose faster than the way we run? So the reason is by running this way, gorilla is not just using his legs, gorilla also using his arms. Not just arms, gorilla is using his whole body to run by running this way. So today how is gorilla using his whole body to run this way? So right now we are going to learn that. So in this run cycle there are four main poses. So what are those four main poses? Anybody can say the two of the poses are stretch and squash. So gorilla is stretching and gorilla is squashing. Those are the two main poses, and there are two other main poses after this, and those two other main poses are the pose after stretch and the pose before stretch, or we can say that the pose before squash and the pose after squash. Okay, so here in this Maya file, here in this file we can see that there are four main poses. The first pose is stretching pose. So in stretching pose, gorilla is perfectly stretched. His hands are stretched as much as he can stretch. His feet are stretched as much as he can stretch, and also like his body is stretched as much as he can stretch. He stretched his body so much that he is turning in backward. So and the other than this, the next pose is squash, and the squash pose will keep right in the center of the run cycle. This run cycle is 14 frames, so the stretch pose will be on frame 0, or we can say on the first frame, and the squash pose will be on the center, which is frame 7. So in frame 7 here is the squash pose. In this squash pose, gorilla brought his legs as close as he can to his body. His hands are also close to his body. His hands are also inside, and he squashed himself. And also the other thing we can see in this is gorilla is in air. In stretch pose, one of gorilla's hand was on ground and one of gorilla legs was on ground. But in this pose, the gorilla is completely in the air. In fact, gorilla will land his feet right in next 2 frames, but in this pose the gorilla is in air. Other things we can say about this pose is the body is kind of straight but not exactly straight. The body is in C pose, and in the stretch pose the body was in D pose. So okay, so we talked enough about squash and stretch, but what about other two poses? The other two poses are even more important, because So the first other for the third pose, I can say the is on frame 4. The third pose is on frame 4. On frame 4, the frame 4 is between the stretching and squashing. So after stretching, the gorilla is landing his hands on the ground and pushing himself by using his hands. So on frame 4, we will see that gorilla already pushed him and moved forward, and also trying to bring his legs closer to his body. So we talked stretching pose, squashing pose, and this pose is right in between stretching and squashing. I kept this pose a little bit closer to squashing because he's about to squash. So on frame 4, the gorilla is about to leave both of his hands from ground. In fact, he already left one of his hand from ground and he is about to leave another hand. So what exactly gorilla is doing in this pose? In this pose, gorilla is trying to push himself forward to squash himself. So after stretching, gorilla landed his both of his hands. He pushed himself he pushed himself forward, and he also brought his legs. He's trying to bring his legs forward so that he can squash. And so in this frame number 4, you can see that gorilla is using his hand, and he used his hand and he's about to leave the ground, and he brought both of his legs forward. And after frame 4, of course, is a squashing pose. He's in air. He's squashed because of this pose. Why is gorilla squashing? Because of this pose. His hand pushed himself forward. Because of his hands, his legs are coming forward, and because of this pose, he is squashed. If I play it slowly, you guys try to observe the hands here. He's touching his hands on ground and he's pushing himself forward, and he pushed himself and so much that he is squashed after that. And so the fourth pose, let's go to the fourth pose. In fourth pose comes after squash. So after the gorilla done squashing, he will land his feet on ground. So the fourth pose is on frame 10. On frame 10, both of his feet are on ground. And by landing his feet on ground, he is ready to push himself to stretch again. So about the fourth pose, we can say that gorilla landed his feet on ground and pushed himself by using his feet. So the first pose, again I'll repeat, the first pose, the gorilla is completely stretched, and after completely stretching himself, he landed his hands on ground and he reached to the second pose. And what is the second pose? In second pose, he tried to move himself forward and he's trying to bring his legs closer. And by doing this, he reached to his third pose. In third pose, he is completely squashed. He is squashed because of that second pose. He pushed himself forward, he brought his hands closer, and he's trying to bring his legs also closer. And by doing that, right now he will be squashed on frame 7. And after squashing himself, when he is about to land on the ground, he won't land everything, he will only land his feet. And by landing his feet, as you can see on frame 10, he landed his feet. By landing his feet, he will push himself forward again, and he will stretch himself again, and again he will try to land on his hand, and he will repeat the same thing again. So by stretching and squashing, he is trying to run faster. Not just I think the main poses are not stretching and squashing. The main poses are when he's landing his feet. The other two poses are the main poses, because in one pose he's trying to push himself by his hands, and in the other pose he's trying to push himself by using his feet. And also now these are about hands and feet. Now let's talk about the spine. What's happening in spine? As you guys can see in the stretching pose, his spine is completely bent like this. But why is that? Okay, so as you guys can see that on frame 10 both feet are on ground. Because his both feet are on ground, now the feet will push himself to the stretching pose. So as the feet are pushing the spine in stretching pose, the spine go into inverse C position. Like the spine, as you guys can see, like try to observe here, the feet are pushing his body forward, and because of that his spine is going in inverse C position. And because of that his body is you guys see, when he landed his feet, his body is completely straight, and after landing his feet, his feet pushed the body and he went to the C position. And after going in C position, after full stretch, he again used his hands and he again went back to his normal spine position. So the feet will move the body in inverse C position, and then his hand will touch the ground, and again he will go back to C position. So this movement is happening in his body because of hands and feet. Feet are pushing him, because of the feet he's going like this, and again his hands are touching, and because of his hands he's going like this, and because of this motion also he's bringing his feet forward, and he's stretching him to take his hands forward. And by doing these things he's trying to run as fast as possible. He's basically jumping again and again. First he's jumping using his feet, he stretch using his feet, and then he uses his hand to jump again by squashing himself. So you guys have to understand this thing which is happening to his this gorilla's body, and by doing all these things he's trying to run fast. So these 4 poses which I just talk, those 4 poses are really important. And now if I want to talk about these hands and feet separately, I can say that the left hand land on the ground, touch the ground on frame 13, and the right hand touch the ground on frame 1, which is 2 frames after. So there is an offset in both the hands, and even in the feet there is an offset of 2 frames. Even in the hand there is an offset of 2 frames. So basically they are doing the same thing, but in the gap of 2 frames. So they are pushing themselves and then smoothing out and coming ahead, and then again landing and pushing themselves, and both hands are doing the same thing, and even the feet are doing the same thing. They are landing, pushing the gorilla, and then again smoothly coming forward and landing again, pushing the gorilla. So hands and feet just doing the same thing. You guys just have to observe. So the hands, as the stretching pose is the frame 14, the one hand is landing right before stretching, like right before the stretching pose. Like let's say the stretching pose is frame 14, one hand is landing on the frame 13, and one hand is landing after 1 frame, which is frame 1. If we come back on this side, which is frame 1 here, and the same thing is with feet. So as the mid frame is frame 7, in which he squashed, the first feet will land the ground right after that, which is frame 8. On frame 8 the first feet will land, and right after 2 frames the second feet will touch the ground. So it's just yeah, so it's just, if you guys will observe more, you guys will see what is happening here. And like I will show you guys my old file in which I only made poses. So this is my old file. In this file I started working. So first I only made these 4 poses which I just told you guys. So on frame 0 you guys can see the gorilla is completely stretched, and on frame 4 he already pushed himself forward, and he's trying to bring his legs closer by using his hands. And on the third pose, on frame 7, he's completely squashed, and and on frame 10 he landed his feet and he's ready to push himself to stretch pose again. So and don't think that just by making these 4 poses you will make a run cycle. Right now I have these 4 poses, but my run cycle is not looking good. After doing this, you have to do a lot of work on the graphs, in this basic file, if I open up my graph editor, there is nothing happening other than easing in and easing out. So if you guys will see my graph editor, there is no detailing other than these poses. So graph is just going from one pose to another. There is no detail in this graph. So now if I open up my this animation, if I select all of my controllers, you guys will see that there are keys on each and every frame, and if I open up my graph editor, there is a lot of detail here. So first you have to make these 4 poses, and after that you have to think about what I said. You have to do even more observation how gorilla is moving, and you have to bring the same thing in this gorilla. For example, you have to observe on which frame his back body is the lowest, on which frame the back body is on the top. So if I open up my graph editor, here the up and down is Z, because my COG is rotated. So here you can see my COG is rotated. So I will look at the translation Z. So the lowest position of gorilla is frame 10, because on frame 10 both of his legs are landed, so his body is as low as possible, and his highest position is on frame 4, on frame 3 or 4, in which both of his legs are in air and his body is also up. So to keep his legs up, his body also need to be up, right? So this is the up and down of the back body. Now let's look at the front body. In front body, the up and down is Z. So what could be the highest position of the front body? The highest position here is frame 7, because the gorilla is completely squashed. His back body will come forward, his front body will also go back. So because of that, his body need to go up. And also the lowest position of this gorilla is the stretching pose, is frame 14, or you can say frame 0. In that he's completely stretched and he's about to fall down, and as soon as he stretch, he have to go up to push himself again. So the lowest position we can say is frame 14. So I can keep talking about this gorilla. I can keep saying that it's doing this thing, it's doing that thing, but I think I made my point clear why gorilla is running like this. He is just jumping by using both his hands and feet. He's just trying to do this. He's trying to be a machine of running. He's using his whole body to run. So now I think this is enough for today, and in next video I'll be talking about maybe another run cycle, or I will try to merge 2 run cycles, and I'll show you guys how we can merge 2 run cycles. And please let me know what you guys think about this video. And I think instead of I can make this I can just upload the whole tutorial how I made this, but by that I won't be able to explain how gorilla moves. You guys will see my each step how I'm doing animation, but you guys will miss what gorilla is actually doing. So in this video I kept this video short, and I try to talk what I see in gorilla, what I observe in gorilla, and how I observed in gorilla. So I talked about those 4 main poses. I told you guys what is the reason for those main poses, and after making those 4 main poses also, you have to do a lot of detail in graphs. And I think that's pretty much it. And please let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in next video. Cheers.